FTX, the second biggest cryptocurrency exchange in the world, has gone under, and quick. Billions lost, and because of the nature of this new unregulated industry, a lot of regular people who took that plunge are now out of pocket. But why am I talking about this? Well, FTX was one of Mercedes' sponsors with a prime position on their rear wing end plate and nose. Plus, FTX put together an entire beachside show for the Miami Grand Prix, FTX Off the Grid. I was literally there doing my post-race live stream from the 8 Sleep motorhome. If a crypto exchange the size of FTX can flatline in a matter of days, any of them can. And this is financial, an alternative to conventional banking for many, so real people's livelihoods potentially at risk. I think we need to talk about this. So what exactly caused FTX to crash? Well, look, I'll keep this very brief. Basically, the markets got spooked. People wanted to take their money out. A lot of money was requested to be withdrawn. FTX didn't have the cash. They had the assets, apparently, but not the cash to give people their money. This is what a liquidity crunch is. That's really difficult to say, liquidity crunch. Then Binance, who are the biggest cryptocurrency exchange, came in, attempted, apparently, to take it over, looked at the books and were like, actually, no. There's nothing for us here. The assets are pretty much worthless. Then it started to all look a bit fraudulent. Alameda Research, backdoor dealings, blah, blah, blah. If you want to learn more about this, I've linked CoffeeZilla's video outlining everything above. FTX were throwing so much money at sponsorship, whether it's Tom Brady, Steph Curry, the Miami Heat Arena, called the FTX Arena, as well as both Mercedes-AMG Petronas Formula One team and Formula One, at least for the Miami Grand Prix. It's impossible to say for sure how many people converted to putting their money into FTX through Mercedes/Formula One. At the end of the day, FTX were putting so much money into these companies, these sports companies in particular, because association implies legitimacy. Like when I sit here and I take a sponsor, there's not one on this video, but when I'm talking about Squarespace, I'm utilizing the trust that you have in me to promote a product that I believe in and I believe can give you value, and in return, I get paid. We see all these brands all over Formula One, whether it's on the cars, whether it's on the tracks, because ultimately they want us to pay for their product, and they're using the sport to get our eyeballs onto them. Different companies have different ethical conundrums around them, which we'll get into, but at the end of the day, there is a exchange of value going on there, and that's fine. And now I do want to clarify as well, yes, Mercedes have been stung here, but they are one of 9 teams in Formula One which are currently doing dealings, whether it's sponsorship, partnership, whatever, with crypto related organizations and businesses. Ferrari have Velis, AlphaTauri have Phantom, Aston Martin have Crypto.com, Alfa Romeo have Floki, Alpine have Binance, McLaren have Tezos, Red Bull have Bybit, and Haas just recently partnered with the NFT marketplace OpenSea. And guess what? All of them are down big time. I found a really good article on Sports Illustrated actually published last week talking about how all of these cryptos that have partnered with teams, excluding OpenSea and obviously FTX now, have dropped so much in value. I'll link that in the description down below if you're interested. Essentially, if you converted as a Formula One fan to invest in any of these cryptos that we see advertised on these F1 cars in January 2022, as of right now, you have almost certainly lost most of the money you invested. I'm sorry. Now, a very valid question here, I think, is did Mercedes do enough due diligence when brokering that sponsorship with FTX, right? Because, you know, if Shark Tank's Kevin O'Leary can fall for it, he invested loads in, he's lost out big time, and he brands himself an investment guru, then what chance have a Formula One sports team got? Well, that's kind of ironic that Kevin is now screaming for regulation in the industry when surely the whole point of crypto, blockchain, is that it's deregulated. When billionaires lose their money, turns out they make a lot of noise about it. Did Mercedes invest in FTX themselves? I mean, I don't know, but probably not. Obviously, sponsorship works in a very different way. Again, it's Mercedes are paid to show the logo, which then us as fans, we see the logo, we become more accustomed to seeing that logo. That association implies trust, and then we as fans are more likely to go and use that product. And to be honest, I can't sit here and be too critical of Mercedes for going with FTX specifically, because again, all of these other huge organizations, all these financial YouTubers backed FTX. I don't think anyone saw this coming. It seems isolated to the actions of SBF, the guy who founded FTX, right? So I can't get Mercedes, I can't get on their back too much for that. My main cock up here is that getting into bed with crypto, shout out Williams, who seem to be the only team who haven't done it yet, is a huge risk that you're promoting to your fans. Because as far as I'm concerned, it's gambling. And look, I've talked about this before, I don't fundamentally have an issue with gambling. My main issue with crypto is I think it claims to be something that it isn't. For me, it's like roulette gambling. Who knows what Bitcoin's price is going to be in a week? It's just a complete free-for-all. Anything can happen. It's a roll of a dice. When it comes to gambling that has some kind of, not skill, but some kind of logic and thought process attached to it, like, for example, investing in stocks or betting on sport. I personally don't have too much of a problem with that. I've got stocks. I've occasionally bet on sport. I don't really do that, though. Not because I don't agree with it, just because it's not really for me. I know it can be a vice for a lot of people. Everyone's got their own morality attached to a lot of these kind of topics, and that's fine. That's a very individualistic take. But then when you combine that with the complete lack of regulation in the industry, which is a selling point to the blockchain and crypto, it becomes an industry that, whether it's through sheer incompetence or malicious fraudulence, these crypto exchanges that are entrusted with billions of dollars of people's money, they can flatline and just lose everything. We saw it with Celsius, BlockFi, OneCoin, that list could go on. The amount of influencer-backed rug pulls where some rich celebrity hypes something up, makes a ton of money, sells out, and then all their fans are left holding no bag at all. And this is what breaks my heart, and this is the biggest issue with all of this, is so many normal, regular, everyday people who are sold this dream, financial freedom, away from the banks, take control of your destiny, and then boom, it's gone. Money doesn't appear out of nowhere, and all these rich crypto bros who love to flex their lifestyle on Instagram, that is all bankrolled by their fans losing money, and it does my head in. It honestly makes me sick. It's grim. Look, in my opinion, deregulated finance, there are plenty of pros to it, okay? I'm not saying the banks are perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but consumer protection is a thing in traditional conventional banking, and it's clearly not a thing in crypto. And that for me is a huge problem that this FTX collapse has blindly highlighted here. Sponsors do keep the cogs going, okay? Sponsors are the reason that the sport exists financially, unless we're all going to pay a subscription for F1 to run. That's just not going to happen. We need sponsors, and that's fine. And look, businesses can go under. It doesn't matter what industry they're in. It happens all the time. The issue is whether teams should be allowing brands to showcase their brand on their car when there's questions around the legitimacy of their business as a whole or the product they sell or whatever. When 9 out of the 10 F1 teams chose to grab the crypto bag, that carrot that was being dangled in front of all of them, they also accepted that inherent risk that comes with this industry. When that risk doesn't pay off, it's not the team that's really hurting, it's the people who trusted the team to be showcasing a legitimate brand. They're the people who are getting hurt. I don't know if Mercedes got the full bag from their sponsorship deal with FTX. I would assume that they would have paid up front. Here's your bag for the season to showcase our logo. I could be wrong. Maybe it was in installments, and maybe they have been somewhat burnt by this as well financially. But at the end of the day, it's not like they were a title sponsor. It's not like with Bitch Energy and Haas back in the day where they were meant to be coughing up most of the budget for that car. With Mercedes, FTX is a small sponsor amongst many. But also, I've got to be honest, again, my first video that really popped off was me drinking Red Bull and Rich Energy, and actually I preferred Rich Energy. They actually sold a product that was actually a thing. It's Haas, the team, who were rug pulled in that instance, whereas in this instance it's the fans who have potentially converted on FTX through Formula One who have been rug pulled. And look, when all that nonsense with Bad Santa was kicking off, there was talk at the time, and I don't feel there was enough talk of it at the time, and I think there should be more talk of this now about regulation of sponsorship in Formula One. Part of me is also you know what? No, the teams should be entrusted to self-regulate. It's not like pushing for performance. A team like Mercedes, I'm just using them as an example. You could say any big teams in particular, because the smaller teams, you could definitely make an argument, they really need the money, so they're prepared to go a bit more risky, which I think is why Rich Energy has happened in the first place. That wouldn't have happened to a bigger team, but especially with a big team like Mercedes, where they have plenty of choice. I've got no doubt in my mind that there's loads of brands who would love to be associated with Mercedes, particularly with Lewis, of course, because Lewis brings a huge pull commercially to that team. But should F1 themselves intervene to make sure that certain, I don't know, boxes are being ticked with these sponsors coming in? Again, I think the Rich Energy thing could have been seen from a mile off. I think this FTX one, I don't think anyone could have seen that coming. It's more crypto and the nature of that industry be allowed to sponsor in Formula One because it is so volatile. And look, F1 themselves, I mean, they're sponsored by Aramco, who are a huge Saudi oil firm, and in terms of the morality of sponsors, they're not really ones to talk. But then also you could pick issue with any brand, whether it's DHL or logistics, the environment, or Rolex, like capitalism, like all this money going for stupid watches. I do wonder if this bankruptcy of FTX will make Mercedes think differently going forward about taking sponsors, and do they jump into bed with another cryptocurrency? And also, how do all the other teams feel? I mean, Binance, who were aiming to seemingly to buy out FTX, they are sponsoring Alpine. And then you've got all these other, like you got Floki, which is one of these meme coins, which is worth barely anything, but it's still lost stupid amount of value in the last year. And also, when a brand associated with one of the bigger teams on the grid goes under, I think that does, to a degree, hurt the legitimacy, not just of all the other brands on that Mercedes car and all the other brands associated with Formula One, but also potentially hurts F1's wider commercial sporting pool, whether it's Moneytron back in the day or T minus and now Rich Energy or FTX. You know, it doesn't help if you're a brand wanting to get into Formula One, but then you're like, oh, they took that FTX sponsorship, oh, they took that Rich Energy sponsorship, I'm not sure if I fancy that. Look, I'm interested to hear what you lot think in the comments below. Like, I've been a crypto skeptic for quite a long time now. It's not something I'm prepared to put my money into. Everyone's entitled to do what they want to do. For me, it's not for me, and I feel like this was inevitable. For the second biggest crypto exchange in the world to go down, like I said at the start of the video, anyone can. It's an industry that's struggling a lot at the minute, and again, I think the teams need to take more responsibility for the brands that they're pushing to us, the fans, because it's us, the fans, who ultimately lose out, especially with a brand like that. Like, again, Rich Energy, they're selling drinks, all right? It's not the end of the world. When it comes to crypto and a lot of these exchanges, there's certain examples where people are putting like their life savings, which, yeah, there's personal responsibility there for sure. But a lot of the time, these currencies are, you know, they're selling a dream. They're convincing people that this is the way out and it can all come burning down. And for me, it just doesn't sit right. But anyway, that's me done. Drop a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new and you want to see more videos kind of like this. I like talking about the business of Formula One when I can. My name's Tommo. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.